Hi, everyone. Welcome to Overtures. Hello. I hope you're having a great Thursday or whenever you're listening to this. If you're listening to listening to us in the future on Spotify and Apple Music. Hello, welcome. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great spring day. I hope you're starting to enjoy the fact that we're finally in like real spring right now. I love it. I spent time hanging out in Central Park for several hours yesterday. That's how you know it's really spring, that you're willing to spend several hours outside in the weather and the temperature is still good for 3 whole hours straight and doesn't change to something too hot or too cold. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying your day and hope you're having a great day. So let's get to it. We are on episode 67 of Overtures. Amazing. My guest today is a New York City based actor, officially 1 year post graduation from Wagner College. In that time, he has been a part of the world premiere musical of Witnesses, a new musical in San Diego, and The Office, a musical parody off Broadway. In his free time, you can find him walking around Central Park, strolling through the aisles of Target, and watching all kinds of reality TV. My guest is not only incredibly talented, but so hardworking and frankly just hilarious. I am so excited to finally have him on and chat, and this is going to be a fun episode. So, without further ado, this is Ian Dembek.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, welcome. I'm so happy
Thank
to
you.
finally have you on. I feel like this has been a long time coming, so
Absolutely
I'm very
has.
very excited to chat. Of the numerous times we would run into each other, like to and from work and otherwise, I'm like, this needs to happen. Gosh dang it.
Right.
But yeah, welcome back also because you were just in
Thank
California
you.
for a little while. Feels nice
Yes,
to kind of settle back down again.
it absolutely does. I really needed just that refresh, recharge, and I'm back. I'm
Yes,
very happy to be back.
absolutely. Getting to it right from the get-go. I love it. I love it so much. And I always like to preface and being like, how do I know my guest? As with many of my guests, we know each other from our good old alma mater, Wagner College. But it was really fun because you were a freshman when I was a senior. So we only had the 1 year together. But
Right.
much like Kayla Morgan, who I had on only a few short episodes ago, we were often working together because we were both on TAB, our theater advisory board. That was such a fun experience. So fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, many who watched that episode with Kayla are probably already familiar with this conversation. You were the only guy on tab our freshman
Correct.
year. And
Correct.
it was so
Top
great.
girls and Ian too.
Tab girls and Ian too. It was amazing. I'm so curious. Had you previously worked in or worked on like student council type groups when you were like in high school? What made you want to join Tab when you ended up coming to Wagner?
Yeah, we had a very similar organization at my high school. We were called the Theater Junkies.
I love
So
it.
I served on that for 3 years. My sophomore year, I was secretary. My junior year, I was president. And my senior year, I was the manager of our competitive improv team.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we all kind of worked together on that board. And so when I came to Wagner for my audition day, and I saw everyone. I think that year the theme was Once on This Island. It was Tab on This Island,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
saw everyone wearing those shirts, and I was like, I have to come to this school, and I have to join that board.
You're like, I have to be those crazy people running around telling everyone where to go. Um,
Exactly.
it's great because like I think that's part of what makes Wagner Audition Day so special and unique is because truly it's like the leaders of the theater department who are running the day. The faculty
Right.
members are where they need to be in terms of what rooms, but other than that, like the whole audition day is run by the students. It's
Right.
absolutely crazy. And so you went on to do all 4 years in tab, right? Just
I
like
did.
Kayla.
I did.
What all positions did you end up holding?
Freshman and sophomore year, I was a class representative,
Yeah.
and then junior year, I was secretary, and senior year, I was the community service liaison.
I can imagine that the being a community service liaison right when you were coming back from the pandemic with schooling and things like that. I'm sure that transition must have been very strange. I mean, like, what can we do and what all are we even able to get our hands on?
Yeah, my senior year when I did that position, that was the first year that Broadway Flea was back.
Oh,
So
yeah.
luckily we had our contact that loves Wagner students and was very happy to bring us back. But it was brand new for them too. They had pretty much a brand new team on their end, so
Mm.
all of us trying to work together to bring that event back. and then just getting everything back to like the in-person benefit cabarets that we would do for BCFA and all the rules that we had to follow with that, with masks and testing and all that. But it was a lot of fun, and we were able to raise, I think, fall semester we raised like $1,200 for BCFA through that.
Amazing.
But one of the things that the pandemic did bring us a lot was streaming options. So a lot of people that weren't able to be there in person were able to still watch that live and donate. So that was really cool.
And I'm sure that also in many ways helped being able to get people who wouldn't normally get involved, like people's parents or friends from not the Wagner College area, get involved and still be able to donate. And that's so awesome that you guys were still able to be like, okay, these are our restrictions, but there are ways of working around them, and we will still make this happen. Because I think community service was a huge part of what TAB did, but also just Wagner College as well in our terms for our theater department. So that's so awesome that you guys still got to work with Broadway Cares and do all those amazing things.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to Kayla about this question sort of came from an administrative view because she's in the arts admin area, but I'm curious if working on TAB ended up affecting or guiding you entering the industry post-graduation, like as an actor or even just as a theater artist value-wise? I'm curious.
That's a great question. I feel like all of our experiences like make up who we are. I feel like I tend to be like a natural leader. I like to step into those leadership positions. So having that experience with TAB and then going into the industry and also just creating those connections with the industry, like I now have connections with people who work with Broadway Cares. So it's definitely helped me definitely step into those kind of positions in the real world. Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense because when you're actively like working with people outside of Wagner College and making those connections, I can imagine then going into the city and being like, oh, okay, I've already started to at least get to know people on the like the Broadway Cares side of things, even if it's not like casting directors or anything like that per se. It's getting to know those people and not being as afraid of being like, okay, let's make a connection. Hi, let me introduce myself. So I'm curious, going back to the way beginning of things for Ian Dembek, how did you first get started in theater?
My elementary school would do shows once a year, and I have 3 older brothers, and 2 of them would always do it. And I think, gosh, I was maybe like 3 years old, and I saw my brothers in a production of Peter Pan, and I was like, I can't wait to be in kindergarten so I can do the show. So kindergarten, my very first performance, I was an Oompa Loompa in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
And I just did the shows every year. And then I really started like training when I got to 7th grade. I found like a conservatory outside of school that I was able to start training in. Yeah.
That's amazing. Was it an extracurricular type of conservatory, or was it like through the school system, like a charter school type thing?
No, it was extracurricular. So Kathy Rigby, who was an Olympic gymnast, has done all the Peter Pans ever. Her and her husband, who's a producer, Tom McCoy, they own a youth studio. So they have like all these dance classes, both recreational and competitive. They have a musical theater program that puts on a whole bunch of shows. So it was a really great program.
That's so awesome and so special that you got to have that kind of caliber of like education and people to learn from at such a young age. Because there's so many people who don't get to work with people with so much knowledge until they get to college or even beyond. So I love that you got a chance to like get your hands on it at such an early age. So then I'm curious, what was like that overture or light bulb moment for you where you're like, oh no, I love this, but now I know that I like want to do this as a career?
I think it was actually my sophomore year in high school. I was leaving the cast party for my high school production of Legally Blonde.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what it was, but I just looked at my mom and I was like, I'm going to college for this. Like I am doing this forever. I don't know exactly what it was, but in that moment I was like, I don't think that there's anything else I want to do. Up until that point, I think I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm gonna go to law school, do all that. But in that moment, I was like, I don't think that's for me. I think this is what I'm going to do forever.
You also would have been a very great lawyer. Let me first and foremost say that. But I'm so glad that you ended up pursuing the theater part of it.
Yeah.
Who did you play in Legally Blonde?
I played Warner Huntington III.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love it. That must have been such a blast of a show. Like, I everyone keeps mentioning like, "Oh yeah, I got to work on Legally Blonde, blah blah blah." And I'm like, that's such a show that I want to get my hands on. I'm sure it's just so fun and crazy for literally any track. And
Yeah, no.
yeah.
It's insane. It's so much fun.
Oh my gosh. But I love that it's when you're like leaving a cast party and you're being like, "Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's what it is." Cuz I feel like so much of why we get into this is the camaraderie and the people that we meet along the way in those
Exactly.
experiences. So I that makes total sense that it's like, yeah, it's this part of it. Like the performance, yes, of course, but it's the people. It's the people that make you
Right.
want to do it. And I just love that.
Right.
Um, and of course, you performed at Wagner, but you also directed a little bit too, right?
I did.
How
I
did you
did,
get into
yeah.
that?
So the summer before my freshman year of college, me and my friends put together like this little production of Dog Sees God. And then I got to Wagner and I saw that there were like all these opportunities for students to direct, and I was like, I want like this school to do Dog Sees God. I
Yeah.
want like I love the show. It's like one of my favorite plays. So I was like, I want like a new audience for this. So I applied for CSP my very first time applying. I was chosen, which was crazy. I was like, I will apply every semester. I don't care. I'm just going to keep applying until I get it. But I got it, and it was the best experience I've ever had.
I love that. I know it wasn't during your freshman year because I had graduated already, but what year did you
Yeah,
get to do it? Was it a sophomore year?
it was sophomore. It was first law of sophomore year.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. How exciting.
yeah, and the entire production team, the cast, everyone was in their freshman and sophomore year. So it was a very young, very fresh cast, and it was everything.
That must have
Everyone was
been
just so excited to be there.
That must have been so exciting too to get to work with so many people who had just started their journeys at Wagner as well. Because
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes it can be this thing of like not like seniority, but you feel like you have to like earn it a little bit when it comes to like
yeah,
educational theater. And I love that you guys got to put together a full production of people who were just starting out and frankly fresh out of high school too.
yeah.
And especially with a play like Dog Sees God, like oh my
They're in
gosh,
high school,
yeah,
so yeah,
but and it's also pretty, like, intense in some places too.
it
It's not
is.
the material you used to do in high school, so
Right.
that must have been so much fun. I and obviously you said that you had worked on it, after high school, but what made you end up, like, choosing that play even then? Was it something that a play that you stumbled across and you're like, "Oh, I love this." What was it about it?
It was actually I had never heard of the play before we did it, that summer.
Mm.
But one of my friends, she had seen it out in LA,
Okay.
and she fell in love with it, and she kind of introduced us to it.
Yeah, it's such a wacky play. Like I feel like I read so many scenes from it like separately
Hmm.
that I feel like I need to read and or watch the full thing all in one sitting to really like take it all in cuz it's I wouldn't even say parody because it's very serious, but it's an
It is.
unauthorized a continuation of the lives of those in the Charlie Brown series, and it gets really dark.
It
It gets really
does.
dark. That must have been interesting to then get your hands on as a director and working with your peers, but working on material that could also be very sensitive too.
Yeah, and that was something that I was very aware of going in,
Yeah.
right from like the audition process and our rehearsals, everything. I always said, if anyone needs to take a moment, if anyone needs to take a breather, like you don't even need to ask a question, just walk out of the room, come back when you're ready, go grab some water, get some fresh air. Like it just, and even like in the show too, we made that was like part of our pre-show announcement. We're like, we know that there's a lot happening, so if anytime you need to get up out of the audience and leave, we totally
Mhm.
understand. You can do so. Like no judgments here. So it
Yeah.
was it was a great experience though.
I'm glad to hear that you kind of brought that you established that from the get-go for both the actors and the audience members, because I think when you are working on shows that have such heavy material, that kind of safety for everyone involved is so important. So, thank you for bringing that into the room because I feel like
Of course.
more people need to bring that in sometimes. And
Yeah.
that must have been wild to then direct your first full production as a sophomore. Like, how did it feel when when the production was finally up and you're like, "Wow, we actually did that."
It was wild because our tech week was wild too. Like
Yeah.
we during tech week, we weren't sure what the show was gonna look like on opening night because kept having like power outages in Gatehouse. So we did not run the show with like full lights until opening night.
Oh my
So
gosh.
once it was finally up, and it was stunning. I mean, our lighting designers, they basically designed the show without ever really seeing it on the stage, and it was gorgeous. I mean, I don't know how
Wow.
they do it, but this show honestly went off without a hitch. It was great. Yeah, no, it was such a relief, and we were just able to sit back and just like smile and enjoy the show and just like be in the audience with everyone and not have to worry about anything. It was great.
That's also the best as a director too, that you can sit back and be like, this is theirs now, and feel so
Exactly.
happy and confident with it. I'm curious, did being an actor, just being an actor first, help you? Did it help you in coming to directing and being like, okay, let me communicate with my actors, or establishing a room, or that kind of thing?
It definitely does. 'Cause I feel like everyone coming into a director position kind of comes from their own standpoint.
Yeah.
So for me, being an actor first, it definitely helped in how I communicated with actors. But
Mhm.
also, like at that time, I had never been in a room where I was communicating with a lighting designer before about
Right.
like what I'm wanting for my vision, or with the set designer about what I'm needing from them. So that was learning curve on that point. So it definitely helped in certain aspects, but there were also other aspects, especially on the tech side, where it was a real learning experience for me.
Yeah, and the good thing is that now, like, now that you've had that experience, you can take it with you and be like, "Okay, now I know how that works, and I know how those jobs function better as
Right.
well."
Right.
Would do you think you'd wanna end up coming back to directing later down the line in your career?
I do. I've always kind of said that I want Michael Arden's career, who he's done a
Yes,
little bit of both.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's something that I want to come back to eventually.
Yeah, yeah, and then, of course, right after you graduated Wagner, you worked on Witnesses, and that
Yes.
was right after you graduated, correct?
Yeah.
How did you get involved in this incredible production?
So someone that had directed a show with me at McCoy Rigby,
Mhm.
when I was like 13, she sent me a text one day. I was like on spring break, and she said, "Hey, I want you to submit for this production of Newsies to
Mm.
be one of the Delancey brothers." And I said, like rehearsals are happening like while I'm still at school, but like if anything else comes up, and she's a casting director.
Gotcha.
Um, but I was like, if anything else comes up, like let me know. This is my last day of school. And she goes, well, I'm also casting this other thing that starts literally 3 days after you graduate. You should submit for it. Um, so I submitted. They sent me like one of the songs and three of the monologues from the show. And it was like all brand new material. And it was my first time really learning brand new material in like 2 days for an audition.
Yeah, and also, like, on your own with just, like, I'm sure, like,
Right.
tracks in your room.
Right, just like a little plunk track. And then I wasn't able to be there in person for the audition or callback either, because those
Mhm.
happened obviously while I was still in school.
Right.
So they were doing all my casting based off of that video.
Oh my
So
gosh.
then, and then actually when I got the email that I had gotten the production, I had also had another offer at the time for another summer job that paid more and was like housed me, but
Mhm,
it like wasn't as like good of an opportunity. It was kind
mhm.
of just like something I would be doing for the summer. It like wouldn't really like get me anywhere.
Yeah,
So I told her that I was like I had this other offer. So then they were actually able to house me. So I wasn't driving 2 hours back
perfect.
and forth. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, it
that's
was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
that's amazing, and how special that, like, someone that you worked with when you were 13, like, was like, "Oh, hey, I remember this person. This might work," and reached out to you. I love those kinds of serendipitous things. It's the connections that you don't know that you're making that end up bringing you some incredible things.
Right.
And what is Witnesses about, and who did you play?
So Witnesses is based on the diaries of 5 children who perished during the Holocaust.
Mhm.
So they each have 3 songs written by 5 different song teams. So they all have like their own songwriter attached to that
Oh,
diarist.
wow.
And so it kind of tells the beginning, middle, and end of their stories, and they're all interwoven. And it kind of shows, all these children were from different countries, were from different backgrounds, but they all eventually had the same fate. So everything is like takes excerpts from their diaries to tell this story. And I was the only male ensemble member. So there were 3 male diarists and 2 female diarists. So I played every single male in the show that wasn't one of the
Yes.
diarists. So I played the fathers, the teachers, the boyfriends, the soldiers. It was crazy, but it was so much fun.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Well, and that must have been so so powerful and also hard to work on material that is so, I mean, I'm not to say dark per se, but like that means a lot to so many people and is very heavy. And I can imagine even getting to speak with people after the show who had their own personal experiences. That must have been so powerful to be part of a show that could affect so many people.
Yeah, yeah, we had a lot of Jewish voices in the room
Yeah.
while we were in rehearsals, making sure that everything was respectful and accurate. And because we had a lot of prayers throughout the show as well, so
Mhm.
making sure that we were doing all the right things with that, and even just like things as simple as like our director had blocked a hug at one point. And one of the people in the room said, "No, actually, like it's much more meaningful if the mother like takes her hands and just cups her hands around her face. It's called Shena
Mm.
Punam. It means beautiful face. Like that is
Oh.
much more tender and sweet. So just little things like that um, just really it was so cool just being in that room.
Mhm.
And then we also were able to speak during the rehearsal process to some Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
And they told us their stories, and then a few of them ended up coming to the show.
Mm.
So then being able to talk to them after they had seen our show as well. And one of the diarists from our show was actually in Camp C at Auschwitz at the same time as one of the survivors we talked to.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm getting chills
I
again, like just
know, I
talking
am
about it.
too.
So it was such a cool experience, so cool to talk to them and hear their stories.
Yeah, and I'm sure also going back to the parts where you're talking about the direction and working with people in the room who would know the cultural significance of
Right,
these movements and how the prayers are performed and things like that. I'm sure that was also very informative for the director side of your brain too, being like
absolutely.
it's always amazing too, but it's also necessary to involve people whose stories are being told about in the room and in the creative process so that you can have
Exactly.
those kinds of discussions. That what a powerful experience to and show you got to work on
Yeah.
so soon out of school. And you had done original music or musical work in college by another Overture guest, Remy Van Collen.
Yes.
But what was it like to do? We were talking about this in the audition process of it, but what was it like to do an original musical outside of school and in like the professional world instead?
It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Simply because we had a lot of the composers in the room with us
Mhm.
for a lot of it. Um, and just hearing their notes, because we all sing Stephen Schwartz or Jason Albert Brown, and we have different music directors or voice teachers telling us like, oh, like this is what Jason would have meant, or this is what
Yeah.
Stephen would have meant. But to have them in the room and being able to say like, no, this is exactly what you should be doing. This is or like you have leeway here. You can play this multiple different ways, kind of a thing. It was such a cool experience, and just making those connections too. I mean, theater is all about connections. Some of these people are people that I've looked up to for a while that like I have sang their music in other points in my life, and just to be in the same room with them, it was absolutely incredible.
And then for them to also give you notes and being like, "Yeah, actually, I put this rest in here, or I made this note staccato because," and fill in the blank. That must have been like, wow, like getting to really like get to know their brain and understand
Hmm.
how they created it. Because I feel like sometimes when it comes to like actors getting to know playwrights or actors getting to know composers, we don't necessarily know how the sausage gets made in a way. And
Right.
so to get to understand, oh, how have you created this thing and how can it serve the storytelling? Absolutely fascinating.
Right. And to see their creative process too, because I mean, we were getting new pages every day of rehearsal.
Oh my gosh.
So to see their creative process of like, okay, like this isn't working, what can I change? Or oh my gosh, I can make this better. Like
Mhm.
what can I do? It was absolutely incredible. It was absolutely
Yeah.
incredible to watch.
That's amazing. And then we'll talk about your move to New York City and things like that here in a bit. But since we're talking about shows that you've done, you just finished up your run with the Office parody Off-Broadway.
Yes.
Congratulations. Like
Thank you.
what a wild run. And I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you had the chance to go home and recharge before coming back to the city.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And luckily I had the pleasure to see you swing on as Dwight. It was
Yes.
so much fun and so exciting to just be like, wow, that's him. He's doing the thing. I love it. And how cool that you got to make your off-Broadway debut.
No, it's wild. I honestly like can't believe like just like getting an opportunity to perform at all in the city is
Yeah.
always just like so exciting to not have to like uproot my life, sublet my
Yeah.
room for a few months. Like I live here, I'm performing here. It's wild.
Yeah, because you covered both Jim and Dwight, right? Or did you
Yes,
cover
yes.
other tracks as well that I'm like,
I also covered Creed, but I actually never went
mhm.
on for Creed. The actor who
Oh.
plays Creed is the healthiest person I've ever seen. He never went on vacation. He was there every day.
And you were like, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
How many times did you end up swinging on? Do you know?
Oh gosh. I think it was around 20.
Okay,
And I
okay.
four of those were for Jim, and the rest were Dwight.
So you got to get to know Dwight a lot during that
Very
process.
well, very well.
That must have been fun though, because it's like, oh, okay, like you really get to dig more into the character each time you do it on stage too.
Exactly.
I love that. What was that audition process like, and how did you find out that you got it?
So I was actually on another like very short contract down in
Mhm.
North Carolina when I got the audition, and the audition was going to be happening like the day that I got back.
Oh gosh.
Um, so I was like, okay, I'm ready, and it was just like bring in something from your own book. It wasn't like I had to prepare anything from the show, which I was
Oh,
very grateful
nice.
for.
Yeah.
Um, So I had my initial audition, and this is actually my second time auditioning for them because I
Oh, okay.
had auditioned for Friends back in
Mhm.
October. So the next month I was like, oh my gosh, they want to see me again. Like they seem to like the song that I sang last time. I'll sing the same song again. Um,
What
so I
song did
sang
you
that.
sing?
I sang Deli from New Yorkers.
I don't
It's
know
a
that.
no, it's like my voice teacher in high school gave it to me, and I've used it for so many things since. And it like works for me almost every time. It's
I
great.
love
Yeah.
it.
Um, so I went in for my initial audition. I left about like 2 hours later. They emailed me saying like, please come back Thursday, sing the same song again, and hear some sides from the show. So I came back, and at this point, there were only three of us that were like made it to the final callback.
Mhm.
Um, and then I did the callback, and like 3 hours later, I got an email from my agent that was essentially just like they would like you to join the company as a swing. It was crazy. I immediately was like sending voice memos to like my friend group chat. I was calling my mom. It was crazy.
Oh, that's so special, and, like, how awesome that it was such a quick process too.
It was very quick. It was a very quick
Like,
process.
that's, like, literally less than a week, like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Had you been a fan of The Office prior?
I was not.
I was
I
curious about
Yeah,
that.
I had seen a few episodes here and there because my brothers had watched it.
Yeah,
But other than that, like when I started rehearsals, they gave me a cheat sheet. They said like go home and watch these specific episodes, so, like you get the references from the show.
yeah.
And like obviously if you want like watch the whole thing, but like these episodes are the most important. But no, I was not a fan before.
You truly got a crash course going into that
Yeah,
show. Oh,
yeah.
that must have been so fun though, because I with these like musical parodies that are on very famous TV shows with very famous characters, it's finding the heart of the character, but also finding the things to like the parts to exaggerate, the parts to not like make fun of, but like use in a fun way. And so I'm also wondering, like how much of it is like built into the script, and how much of it is like you guys finding it for yourselves.
I would say it's a good 50-50.
Yeah.
With our show specifically, I think it might be a little different for Friends. I think theirs might
Right.
be like a little more true to the script. But for ours, there's so much room for improv. and our cast as well, like we always
Mhm.
knew that like we were going to be improvising, so like everyone was ready. But also just like within the characters themselves, we talked a lot about like there's certain characters who are written like pretty true to the TV show.
Yeah.
Like Jim, for instance, like he was written pretty
Yeah.
true to the TV show. There's other characters that are like exaggerated versions of that. So that would be
Mhm.
like Dwight and
Like
like
Kelly.
and Kelly, absolutely, were like
Yeah.
exaggerated versions of. And then there were some that are just absolute caricatures. Like Karen Filippelli, they had her just talking an Italian accent the whole time. It's like
Yeah.
it's
It's like,
absolutely
what?
not it's absolutely not what she did on the TV show. But
Nope.
no, but but then there also is just like so much room for individuality. I saw, I think, 4 different Michael Scotts during my time
Oh
there,
my
between
gosh.
like swings and vacation swings and replacements.
Yeah.
And they all like have their own little stamp on it that are all Michael Scott, but it's also like their version of Michael Scott. So it was such a great time. I mean, there
That must
was
have been so cool
yeah,
to watch.
yeah,
Especially with, like, multiple people coming in and just, like, getting to watch their versions of it. That must have been just so fascinating being like, "Oh, right, like, it can be done in a different way," and, like, that kind
yeah.
of fun thing too. Was it your first time swinging a show?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I swung a show freshman year of college. I swung my one and
Oh,
only.
yes, yes, you and Cameron
Yeah.
did. I remember this now.
Yes. Yeah. And then I was a tap cover for On the 20th Century in my senior
Mm,
year.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
So and of course, those were all very dance-based too. So,
Yes.
what was that process like of not only joining a cast who had already been doing the show and the show is currently running, but learning multiple tracks in, like, the acting, singing part of it as well, knowing you could go on at, like, any time?
The way that The Office did it was really nice. They taught us
Mhm.
one track at a time.
Good.
So I had like 2 weeks to learn Dwight, and then I had my put in, and I think I had like a month to learn Jim because that was like the holiday season. Things were getting
Mm.
crazy, so we like
Yeah.
had longer until our next put in. And then another couple weeks until I had my put in for Creed. So, um, it was like honestly really nice that they did it. Like I had time to focus on each of them and like
Yeah.
compartmentalize my brain, make all the notes that I needed to. The only thing that was hard and that like I know like me like talking to other swings was the harmonies were so hard to compartmentalize because like blocking and choreography, all that, it's just like okay, you know, when I'm on this side of the stage, I use my upstage hand here. Um, but the harmonies, sometimes I would be on for Dwight and I would sing Jim's harmony. And I was like, dang it. But the show keeps rolling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's like as long as you're in tune, you know, like maybe sometimes you miss a harmony and that's
right.
okay, but you're just like, "Ah, dang it, I knew that." Like it's
Exactly.
definitely that compartmentalizing as you were saying and being like, "Right, right, this is how the music goes." Like that's absolutely crazy. Words. How long was it that you got to do your first like swing-in show after like all of these rehearsals and put-ins?
So I had my first put in on December 1st,
Mhm.
and I didn't go on until February 2nd. Yeah, so I had a
Oh my
lot of
gosh.
time just sitting backstage waiting. But it was all worth it because I that February 2nd was planned.
Okay, I was gonna
So
ask, was it planned or unplanned?
yeah, it was planned. So I was able to have my family from California come
Mm,
out. I had a lot of friends that were able to make it out.
yeah.
Um, Actually, I don't think I had an unplanned one.
Oh, that's nice
I,
at least.
I think all of them I had like at least a week's notice, so I could tell some friends, and it was really nice having friends be able to come. It was so much fun.
Well, and I'm sure that also must have been very nice, like, mentally preparing yourself, being like, "Okay, I know this is coming. I can, like, rehearse that track leading
Right.
up to it." Because I can imagine getting the text of, like, "You're going on today," like, I'm sure there was a little bit of anxiety every day being like, will today be the day that I get the text that I'm going on?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What would you say is one of the biggest things that you've learned from working on The Office?
Um, I really learned like how to just like be free on the stage. I feel
Mhm.
like every other show that I've been in, there's been at least like a small part of me that's been like, this is my blocking, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
But this show, just the way that there was just like so much room to improvise and so much room to just be free and play with people on the stage. And even in the audience, we had a lot of audience interaction. So like
Yeah.
that would change every day. So it really just like allowed me to just like let everything go and just like be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that like I've needed to learn for a long time. It's like the thing that I always, as an actor, I've been like, I just like need to like let loose, like why, like what's holding me back. But this show really, I think, got me to that zone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even from thinking back of when I saw you swing in as Dwight, I'm like, oh, he's living in this. Like
Yeah.
it was so fun to watch you do it. And I think that what you just said speaks to what I saw. So congratulations. And
Thank
that's
you.
always a hard one because like when you're focusing so much on like, I need to remember all the things, it's hard to just like throw it all away for a second and do.
Right.
And so that's totally understandable. And I'm so glad that you got to have that experience to work on that.
Yeah.
And so kind of backtracking a little, because how wonderful and crazy is it that you got to make your off-Broadway debut in your first year of living in New York City?
Yeah.
What was that moving process like for you coming into the city? Did you go back at all to the West Coast before moving, or was it straight from school?
Yeah. So I spent the summer out in
Right, because
California.
you did witnesses.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and me and my roommate were both from California. We did our entire apartment search online,
Oh my
virtually,
gosh.
over FaceTime. So we didn't get to see the surrounding neighborhood at all. Um, our apartment was really nice. Our like apartment
Mhm.
building was a lot of like young people, a lot of people who had like just moved to the city, a lot of like artist types, a lot of other
Yeah.
performers. And like our apartment itself like was pretty spacious. We had a really nice like living area, kitchen, but the surrounding area
Not
was
great.
not it. Um so we spent I think 6 months there, and then we ended up we were able to break our lease and moved. So we added a roommate to be able to afford a
Yeah.
different neighborhood. So now we're on the Upper East Side, and it's so much better. Like we
Yeah.
aren't afraid to leave our apartment at night. So now we're actually like going out, enjoying ourselves, living on the
Yes.
weekends, and when we
Feeling a
come.
I was gonna say
When,
feeling a little bit less nervous coming home from doing a show and
Exactly. Especially
yeah.
when we were living up there, I was catering a lot.
Yeah.
So I would be coming back at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. from events, and I would call my mom, and luckily she's 3 hours behind, so it's
Yes.
only 11 o'clock there, so I'm not like waking her up too late. But I'll call my mom on my way home, just like make sure I get home safe.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a lot of scary moments there.
Yeah, I remember hearing one or two of them that I'm like, I can't believe you dealt with that, and I'm so sorry that you did. But luckily, you're in a place now that you feel much better about, and in a neighborhood that's just absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
So then going into talking about survival jobs, they're necessary. Some can be great, some cannot be great, and frankly, we should all be talking about them just a little bit more because it's nothing to be like feeling weird about because we all have to do it. What are some jobs that you've worked? You said catering, of course, and then what has been your experience with those?
Yeah, so catering, I had like a love-hate relationship with catering,
Yeah.
because catering for a performer especially is very flexible schedule-wise. You kind of
Mhm.
create your own schedule,
Yeah,
and the company that I was working for, at least, like you were able to cancel a shift up to 48 hours in advance.
that's nice.
So if I got an audition or uh, got tickets to see a show and that I like really wanted to see that was maybe
Mhm.
closing soon or whatever, I was able to like give that shift away, and it paid pretty well. Um, I didn't love like actually doing the job itself. There was a lot of standing around and a lot of. I loved working weddings,
Yeah.
because everyone was super happy.
Yeah.
And I loved working like charity events where it was a lot of fun. Everyone was there for a good cause, but then there were those events that were like the gala dinners for these like multi-million-dollar corporations that were just like so extravagant. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're just like throwing money away just to throw it away. Like, you're not helping anyone. Like,
Yeah.
no one here actually wants to be here. They're just here for the free dinner.
They're here for the dinner and like for being around everyone else kind of thing.
Right. So those shifts were rough, but it definitely had its perks.
Yeah.
And then I worked as a house manager for a show Off-Broadway briefly. And that was a lot of fun. I got that through a mutual connection who was like working with as the company manager for that company. And then most recently, I worked as a lobby ambassador in the lobby of like a corporate building.
Gotcha. How is that? Because of course that's very removed from the theatrical world.
Very removed. And for me, the shift, it was Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That's rough.
I am not a morning person. So that was really rough for me. And that was one where I was working the same time that I was working on The Office. So I would be there from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then, Thursdays and Fridays, I would have The Office. I would have 2 shows, Saturday to show Sunday. So I was working 7 days a week. I didn't have a day off just to sleep in or to just relax or to, go grocery shopping.
Right.
So that was a time where I kind of just like had to like listen to my body and be like, I am physically shutting down. Like I need to stop doing this.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that like you were in an off-Broadway show, but also working another job, and that's fairly common.
Yeah, no, because I was working an off-Broadway show, but it was non-union, so it still is paying those non-union fees. So yeah.
And I think another thing that you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about, and I think something that many people struggle with is making connections with others in the city once you're here. Because once you're here, you're like, okay, how do I do the thing? And sometimes you can find them based on where you're working, or lucky enough, we went to a school where a lot of people moved into the city right after college. So we had a mini network. So what has been like some of your experience of like kind of getting out there to know people?
Luckily, it hasn't been too difficult for me because of the shows that I've worked on. I mentioned that I had done like a short little contract down in North Carolina. So it was like a 6-person theater for young audience version of The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, cute.
And we all lived in the city and rehearsed for like 2 weeks, went down to North Carolina for a weekend to do this show. So that kind of like set up like a little network with those people. Some of them came to see me in the office, which was really cool.
Oh, I love that.
I've seen some of them and some of their things that they've done. We invite each other to like our holiday parties all the time now. And then working on The Office, we're all living in the city. So, it's just things where even just like things that like aren't theater related, you just want to have a friend in the city. Like there was like 20 of us that just went to the Yankees game the other day. Because we were like we need to do something that's like not theater. Like let's go to a Yankees game. And it was so much fun.
I need to get out there. I'm fully aware that I'm like 2 subway stops away. I just need to go to a Yankees game at this point. But absolutely, I think there's something to be said for being like, okay, let's take the time to all be together, but also like not do a theater thing. Get to know each other as humans.
Yeah.
Because that's the part you're gonna end up collaborating with the human and not necessarily always the theater. So I think that's really good. I guess a really good thing to think about, and great experience and knowledge from you of being like, yeah, getting to know people, but also making the time to spend time with those people as well.
Right.
Like as silly and simple as it sounds, it's just getting out there to talk to people and being like, I'm not afraid to be like, hey, let's go grab coffee and that kind of thing.
Right.
And so then you currently have representation. You had mentioned them a little bit earlier. Do you have an agent or a manager?
I have an agent.
Gotcha. How did you end up working with them?
So this agent, funny enough, was the casting director for Witnesses, the one that I also worked with when I was 13.
That's so funny.
She is doing everything now. And she originally was, I think, working in the commercial department at this agency. But then I think they dissolved that sector of the agency. So they moved her over to the stage division. So opening night of Witnesses, she grabbed me and one of the other girls in the cast, and she was like, I'm an agent now. Would you guys like representation? And we were like, obviously, yes, we would. So it's honestly a really like unique position that I'm in, like having that prior relationship with my agent and having that trust in her, and someone that like I can text her and I can be like, hey, I have a question, like, can you call at some point today? And she will always stop and be like, yes, absolutely, like I am here for you. And she is just like so real and honest. I think like because we have that prior relationship, that like she's not afraid to tell me like exactly what she's thinking, whether I'm gonna like it or not. You know, sometimes she can be like, no, you should do that. I know that it sounds rough right now, but that's something that I think you should do.
Yeah.
But then other times she's like, no, I agree with you. That's absolutely stupid. You should not do that. Yeah, no, it's been really great.
What a special relationship too. I love that so much. Is there anything that you've learned more about since having representation, or things that have surprised you in that process, in that journey?
Yeah, I mean it really has opened my eyes, I think, to, I mean, I don't know if it's just having an agent or just like being out in the real world now, or a combination of both, but it really has like opened my eyes to how the theater industry operates. Because auditions and all that kind of stuff is so different than in an educational setting, which is really all that I had been used to.
Yeah.
So just seeing, you know, there's this open call, or there's this ECC or whatever that's going on, but it's like, but then there's these other people that have their equity card, that have these appointments, that have these prior relationships with the with someone on the creative team or someone in the casting office, that it's like, yes, you can attend and you can get your face in front of these people, but at the end of the day, sometimes like they already have their minds made up. So having an agent and being able to have those conversations with her, where she has said, you know, you can go on this audition, but you know, just I'm just letting you know, like, it's going to be pretty much for experience. Or I have this audition for you. It's not great, but it'll get something on your resume. Or so just like having someone that like knows the inside works of the industry when I don't at this point, has been super helpful.
And I think that again goes to show that when you have like a representation situation, it's the two of you working together, and it's a partnership. It's not like this magical thing. It's working together and figuring out, okay, what can we both do to make this career happen? And that, I think, is a beautiful, beautiful example of that. So now that we're getting closer to the end of this episode, I wanted to take some time to talk about a thing that you enjoy and I do enjoy too: reality TV.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite shows to watch?
Oh gosh. Recently I got back into The Bachelor. I had taken a break for a while after Peter Weber season. But I came back for this season of oh gosh, what it was, I don't even remember if it was The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. This most recent season that happened. I love RuPaul's Drag Race. I have watched every single season. Really, I got into reality TV during COVID. Because we had so much downtime. I was like, let me just sit here and binge like 18 seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race. Yeah, Big
you
Brother.
You hadn't really watched it beforehand either?
No. Big Brother, that's I have binge watched all 24 seasons since
that's the one that I grew
COVID,
up on. That's the one I grew up on. Big Brother was definitely one in my family. I watched like a little bit of Bachelor, but not a whole lot. Mostly Big Brother, but oh man, it's always so interesting because I feel like when I talk to theater people about reality TV, obviously RuPaul's Drag Race is one that comes up. I think Survivor and Bachelor sometimes come up as well. Big Brother is particularly one that theater kids latch on to. And I have theories about it, but
I think we all want to go on it is the thing. This is the one that this is the one that we all say, like, I can do that. I can win that. Like, I'm an actor. I can manipulate everyone. to like me or to not vote me off when I'm on the eviction block, whatever.
Like to play this character essentially.
Yeah.
But oh my God, Big Brother is crazy. I know, like in my brain, I would not be able to do it. I would be like the person who's like always honest and then would get voted off much earlier because I'd probably be a pushover, unfortunately. But like
Right.
you're always in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know, I could do some of those challenges. That'd be fun.
No, I absolutely, like, one of my life goals is to be on Big Brother someday. Like, I'm gonna make it
Yes.
happen.
Absolutely. I was gonna ask, like, what would you consider submitting? But yeah, Big
And
Brother
I
would be it.
have.
Yep.
And I have. Yeah.
I love that. Are there other shows that you would also consider submitting for, or is like Big Brother the one that you're like, I think that one's mine?
Big Brother is really the one for me, and
Yeah.
then after Big Brother, like, maybe The Challenge or something, but there was the one recently that they just had their first season, The Traitor.
Yeah, I think I saw a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was like there were 10 people that were previously from reality TV. So there was people from Big Brother, people from
Like Amazing Race or something.
from Amazing Race, from the Real Housewives franchise.
Oh my gosh.
And then there were just 10 like totally like normal people, like never been on TV before. And it was kind of like a game of Mafia where there was like 3 people that were chosen as the traitors, and each night they would like kill one person.
Yeah.
And everyone was trying to figure out who the traitors were.
Oh my gosh, that must have been a fun watch, especially with
Yeah.
like people who had all like, or who are all already very familiar with the reality TV setup. I'm sure that must have been wild.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is it about reality TV that has locked you in? Because obviously you started watching it during COVID, but what has made you continue going on watching it?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I think, I mean, I do love regular TV too,
Yeah.
but I think just like as an actor, just to be able to like escape that, because like watching TV, you're watching other people acting. I don't know, like for me at least,
Yeah.
I'm like studying their acting and being like I'm constantly learning from those people by watching TV, and I'm constantly being like oh like how would I maybe have done it differently, or like where would I fit into this show. So then to just be able to like, it's called reality TV, but like it's not real at all. It's just to be able to like escape reality essentially.
Yeah.
And just live in their world for a little bit and just like turn my brain off. I'm not focused on anything like that. It's just honestly like the nearest thing to an escape that I have found.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you lean more towards like the competitive reality shows, or like, I mean, because Real Housewives sure isn't like a competitive show, but I hesitate to call it like everyday life. I'm like, what? Because there's different varieties of reality TV.
I tend to go for more of the competitive, like Big Brother. I would call Bachelor like a competitive.
Yeah, definitely.
But recently I have started watching Jersey Shore. So I am starting to like get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I tend to lean more towards the competitive shows.
Yeah, I feel like those ones are also like, they get you going because of like, you get to know the people and then you're like rooting for one versus another. So I definitely feel that. That's kind of where I lean towards as well. I tried watching Selling Sunset one time and I was like, this is a lot. It's so many staged arguments that I was like, I can't follow this plot. I just can't do it.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So it's crazy. We're already at the end, and I say that every time, but I'm always amazed at how quickly time flies by. So
for real, yeah.
Where can people find you on social media and all that kind of good stuff?
I'm really only on Instagram. Find me at Ian Dembek. It's just my name.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
I am on TikTok, but I don't post anything, but follow me if you want. Same thing. I'm pretty sure it's at Ian Dembek.
Perfect. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lora_Marjoram. I don't do a whole lot on Twitter. It's mostly liking things, but I'm there, so you can find me. And also a TikTok. I started that. I'm posting reels from Overtures on there, so feel free to check that out. Also Lora_Marjoram, and my website, www.loramarjoram.com. You can find this show on Instagram at Overtures Show, as well as on YouTube. If you're watching the video version of it, you are on YouTube. Congrats. feel free to comment, subscribe, like all the things. We love to have interactions here live and on the show. So yeah, thank you for joining. Also on Spotify and Apple Music. So this will eventually turn into a podcast episode. You can listen to all your episodes on the go, all that good stuff. And then I also have a Ko-Fi page. So if you feel so inclined to donate a cup of coffee of sorts to the show, those proceeds will go to help continuing this show run, and so that I can talk to amazing, more talented guests like Ian. So my next stream will be set this upcoming, no, not this Saturday, next Saturday, the 20th at 11 a.m. with Miles Wilkie, someone else that we also went to school with. It'll be a blast chatting with him and getting to hear all the things that he's done since graduation and all that good stuff. But Ian, do you have any final thoughts for viewers live and in the future?
Yeah, just keep spreading kindness into the world. The world needs more of it. So just spread love whenever you can.
Yeah,
That's all there is to it.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you so much, Ian, for being on, and we will see you all later. Bye.
Bye.